Today's feature is Ibrahim Alkurd. He is entrepreneur and business person who actually dropped out of medicine early on, 3 years into his study. He went on to found a few companies that actually soon led him on to become in the Forbes 30 under 30.
Before medical school, I was with a friend on a train going to school, and he told me about Bitcoin. Just something clicked. I started with around $2,000. I grew that to $12,000 in about 3 months, and during med school, did 2 million in sales. In medicine, you can't take risk in that everything's within controlled parameters. With investments, I'll be able to take risk, and it gave me this kind of rush. For me, it was like, this is a way for me to have freedom of my time and to be able to enjoy and live my life and do the things that I wanted. Most people, when they sit and ask them, what do you regret? It's always the opportunities they didn't take. The ultimate risk of a career is spending your life doing something that you don't want to do.
So who is Ibrahim Alkurd?
So I'm Palestinian, born in Palestine. I was raised in the UK for most of my life, and I've been living in Dubai now for around 2.5 years. I studied medicine at Cardiff University, and during my studies I founded my first company, and it was a crypto mining company. So we were essentially building data centers for mining operations. From there, I also launched an asset management firm. I built and invested in several companies throughout my life, and I'm very passionate about entrepreneurship, and I left my career in medicine for being a full-time entrepreneur.
Welcome to the show, Ibrahim. It's a pleasure having you today.
Thank you for having me.
And I want to take you back to when you were in medical school. I think there was a point in your life when all the trajectory had changed, when you started to delve into the world of Bitcoin and crypto. I believe it started during a conversation with a friend on a train. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So I got into medical school in 2015. That was my start, first year. Before medical school, I was with a friend on a train going to school, and he told me about Bitcoin. So at the time, something clicked. I was like, maybe this is something interesting. I like the name at the time, so I was like, let me look into it. So I bought a book, started doing some online research, and then I started working in a call center to save up some money to invest it into the ecosystem. So I started during first year of med school. So I started learning before, but then I started arbitrage trading during med school. Arbitrage trading is where you trade on price discrepancies, right? So Bitcoin would be $100 here, and then it would be $110 in this second exchange, right? And then so you'd be making 10% in profit, right? So initially I was like, I like this industry, it's interesting, and I want to be able to make some money to support me through my studies, right? So, one thing led to the other, and I grew my portfolio over time. So I started with around $2,000. I grew that to $12,000 in about 3 months. And then from there, I realized there was a gap in the market for companies that build crypto mining data centers. We were the UK's first company to establish these data centers. So essentially, when I transfer Bitcoin from my wallet to another wallet, there's these miners that essentially verify the transaction, okay? And when they verify the transaction, you get essentially paid for doing that. So you act as like the verifying entity in the ecosystem. So that then led to me launching Newmine, my company, and during med school did 2 million in sales. So one thing led to the other, and then it went to asset management, right? So it was a journey, and throughout I completed 3 out of 5 years of my studies. I got a Bachelor in Medical Science. I've never failed a medical school exam, and with God's permission, I was able to balance my studies with my business.
Yeah, I mean, some of the experiences you've just outlined there sound quite profound, but I can imagine that it's not as easy as said than done. So what was it like when you initially started off? I know you read about it and you started to learn a little bit about Bitcoin, but what was this jump like into a whole different world of numbers, of risk, of finance compared to medical school?
So one thing I liked about investment and finance is the risk element. So in medicine, you can't take risk in that everything's within controlled parameters, right? So and if you go outside of these parameters, you lose your license, or you can do worse, you can harm someone, right? So it's like with investments, I'll be able to take risk, and it gave me this kind of rush to be able to do something that I found exciting. And for me, I never had an issue with studying biology. Like, biology was my top subject in school. It was the thing that I scored the highest in. So I enjoyed it. For me, what I noticed when I started medical school in the first year of first term is the lack of freedom of time that doctors that I would have if I became a doctor. And I used to do these little surveys. I would go down around when we were on placement, right? And I'd be later in my studies, and I would ask doctors, I'd be like, do you like your career? Do you like your job? Half the time, I got someone, they said yes. Half the time they said no. So I was like, okay, I'm noticing like a difference. Because when I spoke to entrepreneurs, I said to them, do you like your career? And every single time they always said, I love my job. I love what I do. Even if they're like struggling to make ends meet, they always seem to be really happy. So I was like, okay, for me, the prestige of a career is from the satisfaction of that career, right? Like I didn't go into entrepreneurship because, right now, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, like these names are like celebrities, right? In our society, people look up to them. It was never about that. It was always about, I just loved doing what I do. And I always say, do what you're good at and you'll be good at what you like, right? So for me, it was a matter of like, I wanted to find something that gave me freedom of time that I enjoyed. And because I landed on Bitcoin, it led to my entrepreneurial journey. And I was like, this is my thing.
So you mentioned freedom of time. That's quite interesting because from like an outsider's perspective, a lot of people may perceive the world of crypto and just finance and things like that as being very time consuming. They may imagine someone on their laptop all day long. And so do you think that's a bit of a misconception?
So when I started, it was crypto finance, but now I've branched out into like education, different type of tech investments, like all sorts. Sure, at the start, when you're building a company, you're going to spend a lot of time. Sometimes I'd be working, like I'd wake up and I'd work and then I'd sleep. And it's days were like that. But the thing is with business is that over time, I always say it's like having a kid, right? So when you have a kid, in the first few years, they take more of your time. Then they become a teenager, they take your time, but not as much. Then they become an adult. For the most part, they can take care of themselves. With a company, it's the same thing. It's an evolution of, over time, you can start stepping back a bit and you're still reaping the benefits, the income from that company, but when you hire people, right? But, with medicine, it's always going to require your time pretty much for the most part. So for me, it was like, this is a way for me to have freedom of my time and to be able to enjoy and live my life and do the things that I wanted, right? So it wasn't just about, I liked entrepreneurship. That was another important aspect for it, yeah.
Sure. So before medical school and before the whole jumping into the whole entrepreneurial world, what kind of a person were you? Did you feel as though the early signs of becoming a business person were there, or do you think that was found a little bit later on?
I definitely think they were there since I was young because I would look up to business people when I was, even in my teenage years. And the reason I did is because the idea of creating something from nothing, it was just always something that felt very special to me. The fact that these companies won't exist if you didn't exist, I felt that it was special. Whilst like the vast majority of careers, right, if you leave, they're going to replace you the day after. Or not just medicine, but any of the careers. And to be clear, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with doing medicine. I'm saying do it if you enjoy it and that's what you're passionate about. If you're doing it for other reasons, the chances are you're not going to be satisfied in your career. But I do think, I've always, since I was young, I've had that passion for like building just. Even like when I was young, I built this YouTube channel. I just always liked exploring and trying new things.
Tell us a bit about that YouTube channel, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I used to upload like Call of Duty videos back
cool.
in the day. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So it didn't take off. I wasn't that good at COD, but I enjoyed it. It was more about it. Just it's interesting because doing all these little things before it really contributed to the skills that you need for business, because in business you kind of need to be like pretty good at a lot of things. Like for example, when I was younger, I used to do like drama plays, like acting and stuff like that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that was like something that helped me to be able to like speak to investors or speak to clients and articulate myself in a way that they wanted to buy from me, right? I remember one of the times we had a large client. He wanted to buy around $500,000 of mining machinery, and at the time I was still in medical school. So he came to my city, he visited me, and we sat in the taxi to go to the cafe to have the meeting. And he looked at me and said, "You look really young. How old are you?" So I told him my age. I was like 20, 21 back then. And, I could see his eyebrow raise. So I was like, listen, I know I'm younger, but I'll do a better job than all these other guys you're speaking to in fulfilling your order, right? So it was also a sense of belief. If you look at a lot of entrepreneurs, they have a delusional self-belief in themselves that they're like, I'll be able to do it. And it's important because the people that kind of don't have that delusional belief in themselves, they struggle to keep pushing. Now, the medics that are watching this, I know there's some of them will want to go into entrepreneurship or want to do something else, right? But they might have this mentality of like, I've invested so much time into medicine, I'm scared to leave, right? They're worried like, what are the repercussions going to be? And like for me, it's like, well, if you've got your degree, right, and you've got the security of your medicine, worst case scenario, you go back to medicine. Okay, you might have lost a few years of income, but at the end of the day, like when you look at people, they're 80 and they interview old people, they always regret what they didn't do, right? When they sit and ask them, what do you regret? It's always the opportunities they didn't take, right? So my encouragement for people is like, be wise in the actions that you take, but don't live your life in a way that you look back at your life when you're 18 and you say, I wish I actually tried to do that thing that I wanted to do.
Wow. Take us back to your days of being at Cardiff Medical School. What kind of fond memories do you recall? What was it like being a medical student?
To be honest, I've got very fond memories of Cardiff. I had good friends. Simple life, when you're a student, you just go for your your shawarma wrap and and your carrot chai. It's just good memories, man. Sometimes, and for me, honestly, the most enjoyable part of my company was building my business in medical school, spending time with my friends, going to the lectures, and for a lot of my business journey in medical, I didn't tell anyone. So my friends, I was just a med student to them. They didn't know I had all this stuff going on the side. But for me, it's uni is a great time for you to build something because you have little risk. Like most people in uni, they don't have a spouse, they don't have kids. They also have, most people are taking out a loan, so they have the security of that. So it was the best time. And I had a friend, he said to me, he knew I was building a business. He said, why don't you wait until after uni? And I said to him, because if I wait after uni, I will have 3 or 5 years head start on you if I start now. So my encouragement, if you're a student, use this time very wisely. Is you're not going to have other parts of your life will not have as much time as the time that you have as a student right now. So use that time wisely. You don't have to build a business, but work on yourself, improve yourself, work on your hobbies, whatever it may be. Use that time wisely. Don't waste it. A lot of people I noticed when I was in uni is that they were in uni for the uni experience. They weren't in uni because they wanted to study what they were studying, right? And that's a problem because you're spending your time landing yourself in a load of debt, wasting some of the best years of your life. You're not going to have as much energy when you're 40 as you have when you're 20. So definitely use it wisely. But yeah, in terms of Cardiff Uni, great city, great country. Welsh people very friendly. I really enjoyed it.
Amazing. You started quite young, and especially I feel like at a time when I can imagine there weren't many people your age who went into that kind of venture. You've already outlined that when people found out your age, they'd raise eyebrows. And so what was it like getting over that sort of psychological barrier of just being a young man in this sort of big world?
Yeah, I would say that my mentality was I would look at other young entrepreneurs and I'd be like, if they can do it, I can do it. I would think that, what if they could do it, there's no reason that I would not be able to do the same thing. I would say that the younger that you start, the better you'll be when you're older, right? I remember we used to play squash, right, the sport, and I started playing it, I got pretty good, but then you played against someone that's been playing squash since they were 6, and they would completely destroy you. Yeah. So it's because they've started so young. So I would say don't let anyone to devalue you because of your age. It's not really an age thing. It's a time thing. The earlier you start, the better off you're going to be in the long term.
Sure. You're quite big on the idea of improving yourself in a way in which you think about not just your sort of career, but your body, your mind, your soul, so on. Why is that big for you? Why is that important for you? And do you practice this day to day?
So yeah, I'm a Muslim, so my faith is very important for me. I believe that we have a body and a soul. We've got to take care of both of them. Again, your body as well. You've got to take care of your health. It's the way I look at it is some people, they have a lot of material success. They have the fame, the money, the career, wherever it may be, but they're very unhappy. The reality is in fact, I've actually noticed a correlation between the amount of wealth that people have and how unhappy they are. And some of the most unhappy people that I met are also the wealthiest people that I met. So then it's, what's the point of your wealth? And the reality is, beyond a certain earning bracket, it doesn't make much difference to your life, right? The way I look at it is who's richer, Jeff Bezos or someone that's got, let's say, $2 million net worth. He's making 10% yield on that $2 million. He's making $200,000 a year, right? Which is roughly 20K a month, right? And that person has got way more time on his hands, right? Whilst he's just working himself, Jeff Bezos, 60, 70 hours a week. Who is the winner in terms of value, right? The society that we live in nowadays, people have a perception of wealth as being very material, and it's a big problem, especially young people. And I went through that when you're younger, but then when you get older, you realize that wealth is many things. It's your health, it's the relationships that you have, it's your peace of mind, wherever it may be, it's the knowledge that you have. So for me, I'm trying to be holistically wealthy. I'm not just trying to be wealthy in terms of money. And for me also, wealth is about impact, because again, beyond a certain point, you don't need, at the end of the day, you don't need much money to eat, etc. It's about impacting the people that are around me or impacting the community. For me, that's very, very important, because people follow things for titles, or they do certain things to be like, this guy's labeled as a millionaire or a billionaire or a doctor or this and that. But no one's gonna, after your death, look back and be like, he's such a great guy, he was a billionaire. No, it's not. It's like, what did you do with that money? How did you impact people's lives? And that's something that I'm trying to do as much of.
Yeah. That's really interesting because you mentioned the sort of limit that sort of materialistic success can get to you. And once you reach that stage, it doesn't take you any further. And you start to notice, in the higher up levels, people don't get any happier than they already are. And often that leads people to turn towards not taking anymore, but they start to give. And so I wanted to ask you a little bit about the Samar Foundation. When did you start to develop this, and where did this come from?
So my mum's name, she was called Samar, so I named it after her because it was a big inspiration to where I am today, big support as well. It was after my first business success. I launched it probably like 2018, 2019. And for me, it was like something to, reflect my mother's character into a charity. So for me, that's something that I want to be able to build over time and grow over time. And I do believe that, for anyone else, even if you don't have a charity component, you should have something that creates value in your community, right? Whether it might be like a volunteer project that you do, or like, let's say if you have a company, a part of your company. I was looking at a certain example of a woman, she launched a cola, a competitor, and she donates 10% of her money to charity, right? So something like that, whereas you're giving back to the community. And, as part of my faith, we believe that once you give back to the community or you give to anyone, it comes back to you, right? And it's not just wealth. Like we view giving as anything, giving time, for example, or in fact, even in our religion, like smiling in the face of someone is considered a form of charity. So all of these things, they create a better world for everyone. So my advice to people is like, don't just think about how can I make the most amount of money. Think about how can I make the most amount of money with the most impact, right?
What you mentioned there is really thought-provoking because the way I'm interpreting it is almost that we live in a world where it's very external-based. We seek sort of materialistic pleasures, and the wealth we amass, we kind of redistribute it into those kind of fields. But instead, you're offering a perspective where sort of internal pleasures we get from whether it's gratitude or charity that we give to other people around us is ultimately the highest of pleasure that we can get whilst we're here.
100%. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the people that are the happiest, are the people that serve others the best, right? Are the most content people, are these people, right? Even in medicine, like I noticed something when I was in med school, the happiest doctors were the ones that genuinely wanted to be there to help people, right? And, we can say that every doctor wants to help people's health, but some of them want to help others more in their health, and these are the ones that you find are the most content, right? And also, like, if we study, like, if you look at what is money nowadays, right? If you look at the financial system that we live in, how like central banks can essentially print money out of thin air, it's like people are spending their whole life chasing something that it's not even real, in that people just print more of it, right? It's infinite. And governments have printed the most amount of fiat currency, right? We call pounds, dollars fiat currency. They printed the most amount in the last few years, right? The problem is only getting worse and worse and worse, and we're getting into more and more debt. Each country is getting into more and more debt. So my advice for, like, let's say a doctor's watching this and thinking of a career change is align your career change with your objectives as a person. And I always look at it like this, right? There's money that's made that impacts the world positively, and there's money that's made that doesn't impact the world, right? Meaning, if I buy an asset for a stock at this price and sell it at this price, I've made money, but my impact on the world is negligible for the most part. I've just made myself wealthier. But other forms of money, let's say I invest into a medical startup that has a massive impact on society, and then it makes me profit. Great, I made myself wealthier, but it also has an impact on society, right? So I would say, if you're looking to build something, think about how can I create the most value? Because if you create value, you're going to get paid for it. It doesn't matter who it is. Like my phone, for example, I've got an iPhone. It creates a lot of value for me. It's a very useful tool. Therefore, I pay for it, right? This glass holds water. Therefore, I pay for it. So think about how can I create the most value, and therefore, then the profits are going to come. Thereby, the profits are going to come from that.
Right. So by value, are you sort of meaning like creating like somewhat of a meaning for yourself in terms of how it can benefit you? Is that what you're trying to
I'd say both, but in terms of value for what you're building, right? So it's like, why am I building this thing? If your objective is to make a lot of money, it's not the best way to make money. Sure. Your objective should be like, how can I create the most value for the users of my app, and then the money's going to come.
Yep. At such a young age, being so principle centered and being driven by these values, were there any life experiences that you must have gone through? Because a lot of people take much longer to kind of realize these things, I feel.
Yeah, I would say that traveling really helped me. I was very fortunate to travel a lot, and because of that, I met a lot of different people, and a lot of my being in business as well. Like a lot of my friends are much older, so I always like to learn from people that are older because experience comes from life experiences essentially, and I would say that also when you build companies and manage people, that also helps your maturity. I would say that maturity is very much just trying to go through as many things as possible. And in order to do that, you need to put yourself out of your comfort zone, right? It's like most people go to uni and that's it. They just go to uni. Or if I went to uni and I built a business, now I'm learning something else. I'm meeting other people. Like when I was in uni, like I would literally, one of our bases was in Washington State. I would finish my teachings on Friday. I would then take a flight and then I would do the meeting and stuff and fly back on Sunday. So I was very committed to what I'm doing, right? You have to graft. Nothing is going to come easy. And the people that I know that have done well, whatever it may be, they're just willing to put their heart and like soul into everything that they do, right? So for me, it was like when I started it, when I built something, it's like I'm going to give this my best shot. So if it fails, I can say at least I gave it my best shot, right? If my brother came to me recently, he was telling me this thing didn't work out. So I said to him, did you try your best in that thing? And he didn't really give me a solid answer. I said, well, there's blame on you because you didn't give it your best shot. And I think that's the key thing is I've noticed that often a lot of people, they give up too easily, right? So yeah, just to be committed to what you do, I would say.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people are apprehensive to making that jump. Primarily maybe because of the fear of failure as well. They're very much too attached to the outcome that is yet to be delivered. And so is this something that you had ever had to grapple with?
I think that initially the fear, people seeing me failing would have been something that would have made me feel bad. But now it's reached the point where it's like, frankly, I don't care because I'll tell you why. Most people that I don't care that how you're perceived if you fail, because in order to succeed, you have to fail. If I told you have to fail 20 times to achieve your outcome, you're going to want to keep failing as quickly as possible to get to your outcome, right? And the reality is like people don't care about you as much as you think, right? When you pass away, life is going to go on. Like people are not going to, they go to a funeral and they just go for food after, right? So the reality of life is that if you live your life just focused on what's X going to think of me, I need to do this thing so that I look good for this person, you're going to live a very unfulfilled life. If you live your life because you have a genuine purpose that you're living for, right? Now for me, my purpose is my religion, my family, building and investing into companies that have a genuine impact on society, like clear focuses. That purpose then gives me that drive. So whether I fail or not, that's like what people see. It doesn't matter, right? At the end of the day, I'm doing this because I want to do it, right? And one thing I noticed whilst I was in uni is like not just in medicine, but sometimes even other subjects, is that people were there because for other reasons. It was like that the parents wanted them to do it, or they wanted it for the title or whatever it may be. And for me, that's like the wrong reason to do something, right? You shouldn't be doing it for these things. It should be done because you want to do it.
Can you ever relate with that kind of experience? Because I believe yourself and your family moved when you were younger from Palestine.
Yep.
And so being from a first generation immigrant family, do you feel as though it's kind of etched into the culture there to, want to go into a stable income pursuit?
Yeah, so the way I look at it is like, so our parents, I mean, I would say ours, but our parents, first generation immigrants, right? So they come from a country, they leave their country, and they take a big risk to come here, and it's a very brave thing to do, to move countries and like come to a country where you don't even speak the language, you don't know anyone, like it's very admirable, right? So then we get raised here, we have the passport, etc. So we have the security of that thing. Now, because they've taken that risk, the parents might then want you to go to a stable career, right? Now, in like certain communities, they want you to do like medicine, law, engineering, these careers where it's like you're more likely to have a job after you get your degree. But for me, I look at it differently in that they took the risk to give me the security, therefore I should take the risk even more. Like I look at what my parents have done from where they came, and I'm like, wait, you came from here, from Palestine, you didn't have opportunities, you moved countries, you didn't speak the language, you've done all these things. You guys have given me a much higher platform to work from. I should be able to do even more, right? So that's why I encourage people to like And actually, we're seeing a bit of a shift now. Like immigrant communities, their kids are becoming more open to exploring riskier careers, right? But for me, the ultimate risk of a career is spending your life doing something that you don't want to do because you're too scared to leave, and you're too scared of what people are going to think of you if you don't leave, right? That for me is the biggest risk, and it's the biggest waste of life. For me, the way I look at it is like, as long as my career, it does not contradict my faith, right? That's and I enjoy it. That's the most important thing.
Do you want to describe to the audience a little bit about what an angel investor is and what you would do in that role?
Sure. So an angel investor is someone that comes in very early in the company's inception. They usually invest a smaller ticket size than, like, say, a venture capital firm. So they might invest like £50,000 or £25,000 or £100,000, but then they'd give you guidance and assistance, and they'd open the right doors for you. And often when companies raise, the first people they go to is angel investors. Now, there's two types of money to raise. There's money and there's smart money. Smart money comes with knowledge and contacts, and that's the sort of money that you want to raise, right? Sometimes £50,000 of smart money is going to have more impact for your business than £500,000 of just general money, right? And a lot of entrepreneurs, they often think that the reason they can't raise, or startup founders, is because they don't have the contacts of investors. But often the reason is because their product is not that good. Like, I've seen investors fight over investment opportunities because they're so good. So if you focus on building a great product, the investors are going to come, right? And try and prove your product. Now, the great thing that we have now, AI is making building so much cheaper. Now we're reaching the point now where you can use ChatGPT and other AI models to build websites or build applications. So the cost to build something is becoming cheaper by the year. When I was a kid, the internet came about, right? So now I can use the internet to like build my business. But now we have AI, which is essentially an army of robots working for you, if you think of it like that. And a ChatGPT subscription is what, £20 a month. It's very affordable, right? It's literally like a few coffees, and you can have an AI army working for you. So try and build something that has application, that has revenue before you go to the investors, because the reality is now, like, a lot of investors want to see some sort of application before they give you any sort of money, and try and find smart money through like smart angel investors.
Wow. I've genuinely never thought about it that way, where you think about how, because I come from a first generation immigrant family as well, so how our parents took such a risk to bring us here. It's almost like, why wouldn't we want to take another risk as well, and not like sort of settle down and take like a sort of back seat? So onto that, I'd like to talk a little bit about the future of many medical students today. I feel like they're traversing into the entrepreneurial field, especially with the emergence of med tech and all these industries becoming of prevalence, with AI and technology all increasing at such a fast rate. And so with yourself having a background in being an angel investor, what do you look for in companies, if you're going to look at them and think, okay, I think you've got a future in this, or I can back you with X amount of money? What is it that really stands out for you?
So the first thing I look at is the founder, right? Like, every investor is like that. Is this founder someone that I believe can execute? Is this someone that I believe can run a team and build and do what they're saying, right? You never give money to someone you don't like, right? Let's say you're going to buy a car and it's like the best car, great price, but you don't like the person selling you the car. You're not going to buy it because you're going to say, wait, there's probably something off about this car, right? So the first thing I look at is the founder. And then after that, I'm going to look at, like, what are the applications of this? Is this something that can be, like, when you're investing, you're thinking 5-10 years into the future, right? So is this something that's going to have application 5 to 10 years from now? Okay. If I feel like it can be overtaken by a competitor, I look at the entrepreneur and I'll be like, do I feel like this is someone that can pivot if needed, right? Pivoting, we say in entrepreneurship, in venture capital, is when you're going down a certain way with your company and you feel like this is not a good way to make a profit or build a product. So you pivot. You stay in the same sector typically, but you just try and solve a different problem, right? Is this someone that I believe is creative, right? The thing is, one thing that I've noticed is that medical founders, because I have a lot of medical friends, of course, because I went to med school, but I also come across a lot of med tech startups, is that they think very quite robotically and like very systematically with regards to launching their business, when entrepreneurship is kind of messy. It's like organized chaos. So you've got to be creative and you've got to demonstrate that in your pitch, in your deck, etc. I would say that these systems that you learn, like very kind of controlled systems that were useful for medicine. When it comes to entrepreneurship, they might not be as useful as you think, and you're going to be able to essentially, quote unquote cliche, but think outside the box essentially.
Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit more about this organized chaos, because I like that term, and I feel like that is very far from what we're used to at medical school, because everything is just organized, full stop. And so organized chaos, what does that mean to you?
So for me, organized chaos is what attracted me to entrepreneurship, because it's every day is different, and you don't know in 12 months time. Like if you're an F1 doctor, in 12 months time where you're going to be roughly, how much you're going to be earning. 2 years time, 5 years time, Entrepreneurship, you don't know if in 12 months time you're going to be bust, you're going to have the biggest company in your country, wherever it may be, and every day is different. Like problems arise that you can't even imagine, and you have to be able to solve a lot of problems in different sectors, or different areas of your company. So that organized chaos is what attracted me to it, because it was a challenge, the variety of things to do, right? And for me, it's like I started, in crypto and in finance, but then I also have, companies in different sectors now. So for me, it's like, it's hard to get bored of, because it's like, if you get bored of a certain sector in entrepreneurship, you can just jump to the next one. And that's going to have a different form of organized chaos than the one that you were in before. So for me, that's what I define as organized chaos.
Wow. And for those people watching who would like to take their first step into this world of organized chaos, is there one or two things that you could probably recommend them to do to begin, and maybe even learning about entrepreneurship?
I would say that the internet is fantastic. Everything is on the internet. Now we also have AI assisted learning. So you can use that to aid your learning. Pick up a few books. I would say don't get too lost in the books. It's not about reading 20 books. It's about, read maybe 1 or 2, 3 entrepreneurship books. But the reality is, they used to say this in med school, right? Is that the day you learn how to be a doctor is the day that you start practicing as a doctor. Everything else before then is theory, right? But the true practice comes from actually doing it, right?
Yeah.
Like I've not actually met, I can't even think of anyone I've met off the top of my head that studied business in uni that's like a high-flying entrepreneur. If you actually look at the most successful entrepreneurs in the world, they typically come from a different background. They didn't study business.
Yeah.
They just learned the thing on the job. And that's the thing that's amazing about entrepreneurship, is like you can literally learn it on the job, because through the mistakes that you make, your systems get better and you get better at what you do. So I would say that the first part is education. You've got to read, right? But I would say don't delay it too much so you don't start building, right? I would say that you study for, a month or 2, and then you start building a product. And for me, I have a list on my phone of business ideas that I have, right? Some of the best business ideas that have come to me whilst I'm walking or whatever, right? So whenever you get an idea, or whenever you see something, a problem in your day-to-day life, like when you're doing your job in the hospital, right? If you see, okay, this is something that can be improved, write down this thing. Then sit down and draw and have your whole list of your ideas. You've got 50 different business ideas, great. Then narrow them down to like 2, 3. Then go to others and say, what do you think of this, right? Obviously people that you trust, and get their feedback. And thereby you can find that your one idea that you should focus on. If you're a new entrepreneur, just focus on one thing. Don't try and build 4, 5, 10 companies, right? The reason people like Elon Musk can build so many companies is because they have a long track record of entrepreneurship. They work 80 hours a week, but also they have a very big team around them that support them. So I would say start small, start, but don't prolong starting too long.
If I'm not mistaken, without fail, you make a post on, let's say, LinkedIn or on X every day. And this shows a great level of consistency and discipline. Why is this important for you?
So for me, the small habits are the most important ones. Before, when I used to try and do something, I would go very hard on that thing. Like, for example, when I built my company, I would focus on my company. I would neglect other aspects of my life, and then obviously these parts would be affected, and then I would focus on my company less, and then I go and focus on this part of my life. The thing that I found that works the best and also aligns with my faith is small consistent habits every single day, and longevity is the most important thing. Like if you do something for 20 years, you're going to overtake the person that did it for 6 months. We all know, like when you go to the gym on the 1st of January, 2nd of January, it's full, right? By the time it's like February, like everyone's gone because they go too hard too fast. So whenever I feel like something is starting to overburden me, what I do is I reduce the load. Like for example, I read every day, right? I don't read a crazy amount every day, but I read 30 minutes of a book to do with what I'm studying, and 30 minutes to do with my industry. So I read for an hour a day, right? I try to. And then over time, I'm going to finish the book eventually, right? But I wouldn't read for more than that because then I start to feel like it's overburdening me, right? So the habits that you build, don't let them overburden you, because what happens is as soon as you get overburdened, shortly after, you're going to stop.
Are you quite a morning person?
Very, yeah. I mean, I get up
Yeah.
like 4 a.m. sometimes, 5 a.m. like early. The blessing of the day is in the early morning, right? So it's like what I can achieve between 4 to midday is far more than can be achieved after, right?
Yeah.
And I like to start my day with the things that are the most important, like the highest priorities, the toughest tasks, right? For a few reasons. The morning, it's quiet, so there's less distractions, right? Also, your energy is higher, you're more focused, your brain is more clear, and just something about the early morning has just got an energy to it or a vibe to it that just makes you want to be productive, right? So I found that I know for a fact, anyone watching this, if they start waking up early every day, you sleep a bit earlier, wake up a bit earlier, right? It doesn't have to be 4 a.m., but even like 5 a.m., right? The hour difference. If you do that for a year, you'd be surprised and amazed at what you can achieve in that time.
Absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's pretty generic, but I think it's quite important for someone like yourself. If you could go back to your, let's say, first year or even your third year medical student self before you went into entrepreneurship, and you could give yourself some advice based off of things that you've learned on the way, what could that be?
Tough. This is
Yeah, the
deep
simple
life
questions are always tough.
There's a deep life question. I would say this is important because of the society that we live in. People often place their worth on things that are worthless, right? In the sense that like your value as a person is not dependent on how much money you have or what clothes you're wearing or what friends you have. It's dependent on your character, right? And for me, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, as a Muslim, I like to role model myself off him. So there is a saying where the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he says that God does not look at your wealth, right, or your images, but he looks at your hearts and your actions, right? So for me, it's like something that I've learned is like, anything that you get in this world, don't let it make you see yourself above anyone, because at the end of the day, we all believe the same. Doesn't matter what part of the world you're from, like we've been created different to get to know each other. So the best of people are the people that are the most useful to others, right? And it's not about any of these things. Unfortunately, we live in a society that glorifies the wrong things, and I think that's something that needs to change and improve.
And in your eyes, in order for the wider population, whether it's the audience listening or people are outside, what are some small habits that you could advise or recommend to people to take in order to go into a step into the right direction?
So I would say definitely the ones we mentioned before, waking up early and small consistent habits every day. I would also say the habit of always being on the lookout for what are the problems that I can fix in my society in order to create value, right? I would definitely say that the habit of like going out there and putting yourself, meeting people, networking, traveling as well has been incredibly beneficial. I've been fortunate to have traveled a lot. Like these are all things that compound to make you like a well-rounded individual, right? Don't neglect other aspects of your life because you want to excel at something, right? By trying to work at all aspects of your life, you're going to end up excelling holistically as an entire person, right? So I would say that I'm sure a lot of people watching this, everyone watching this even, will be wiser than me in different aspects, right? So I have a principle that you can learn something from everyone, right? So when I have a friend or someone that I know, I'm going to try and take the good from you and leave the bad. And vice versa, try and take the good from me and leave the bad. No one is perfect, right? And that's something that's like, sometimes when I meet someone I find is interesting, like I'll grill them a bit. Like I'm asking them a lot of questions, right? Because I'm trying to derive the knowledge that they have. And what I love about books and about reading is that someone in 300-400 pages of text, someone has put their life learnings into a book. That's why I love reading, because it's like most people, they stop studying after they finish uni, right? A lot of people don't even barely study in uni, right? But like after uni, they stop studying. But if you keep working yourself and studying, you're going to set yourself way ahead of everyone else, right? So find the best books in your industry, find the best books for growth or wherever it may be, and apply these principles. Like reading is one thing, but applying is something else, right? And the way I like to apply things is I work at one habit at a time, because otherwise you're going to overwhelm yourself. So that's my 2 cents, as they say, and hopefully that's been useful.
Absolutely, it has. Ibrahim Alkurd, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today. Thank you so much for sharing the wisdom that you have done. Personally, I've learned a heap, and be taking this away, and enjoying sort of watching it myself as a viewer, more than a host as well. So, like, shake your hand on that, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.